Well, welcome, guys. This is Tucson Biofeedback. My name is Joshua Blesson, and I am sitting here with Charles. Charles, wonderful to meet you, sir. Charles, where are you from?
Chandler, Oklahoma, Central Oklahoma.
Central Oklahoma.
Yes.
And we're out here in Tucson. So tell me what brought you to Tucson Biofeedback.
It absolutely started out a trip without a clear purpose.
Okay.
Basically, for the last decade or so, I've wanted to come back to Arizona, where I lived when I was a little boy,
Okay.
and got married to work as well and a career, and just have put that off for the last 4 years. I've actually always felt a connection with Arizona, with the desert. And so it's been longer than that decade or so. But some life events, actually made me kind of solidified. I've got to go back someday. And there was some, emotional trauma I was hanging on to from my upbringing in Arizona. Death of a stepdad, and then another stepdad into my life, and so some painful,
Right.
trauma that I attached to that.
Right. And how did that connect to Tucson Biofeedback? How did you find that?
My trip began wanting to go back to the towns I lived in. I lived in 3 different towns in Arizona growing up over about a 6-year period. So I wanted to go back to those towns as an adult, kind of complete that circle or cycle.
Gotcha.
In life. And so I started out that way. And after a few days, probably 4 days, I ended up realizing I just was not ready. I felt there was something more about this trip. I was going to my last town the first town I lived in, but it was my last. I went in reverse order of the towns I lived in. And I was going to the last town, Thatcher, Arizona. And before I left where I had stayed the night before in Globe, Arizona, I just had a conversation with a 45-year practicing psychologist just by chance, by randomness. We ended up visiting, and I opened up with him. I just made myself vulnerable. I opened up with him, something I have not been good at intentionally, and I've really designed myself to be that 20, almost 24-year law enforcement guy, and 8-year Marine Corps Reserve.
Exactly.
And each one of those were selected, and yet neither just happened. I selected and created and built myself, and in the process, did some did some damage along the way, being too mission focused, I guess.
And that's actually your background, which I'm so sorry we didn't get to actually bring up at the beginning of the interview, which I thought would have been wonderful, is your background is law enforcement, military as well, or just law enforcement?
Military.
Your Marine Corps, sorry,
8
Marines
years
as well.
Marine Corps Reserve.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's amazing background. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Absolutely.
And when you got here, you spoke to the psychologist. The next thing I want to ask you was, what got you to call Tucson Biofeedback?
And it was his response as we were visiting, just informally visiting. I mean, I'm not seeing a psychologist or anything. I just ended up having a conversation with this guy.
Gotcha.
And so he's out of practice now. And he said, look, I've done 45 years of psychotherapy, and he said, I really feel 2 things would be the best for your situation. He said, you definitely have damage physiologically from heavy metal poisoning, which I developed in the line of work. And then so I've been dealing with that, and actually thankful for that to put me where I am now. So I still have not answered the question. Tucson Biofeedback. After that conversation, he had mentioned 2 things, and one was neurofeedback, and the other was EFT, emotional freedom technique. So anyway, I kind of looked into that, realized that's something you can learn yourself. Not that I was so confident about it that I felt comfortable learning it myself, but I kind of looked into that, and then the neurofeedback just hung on. And so I ended up, I woke up the morning I was going to travel a couple hours to the last town before I went back home. And I just felt that I wasn't ready. And so I ended up finding, and just basically Googled and searched neurofeedback. And I saw Phoenix, I saw Sedona, and this one kept popping up, Tucson Biofeedback.
Yeah.
So I sent the text and I just poured my heart out. I just made myself open and vulnerable and put my story, what the best I could see it at the time, and put that in there, and got a phone call from Dr. Blessing.
Wow.
And I'm so thankful. A month later, I'm still in Arizona, and I've gone through a month of treatments, and it has been absolutely eye-opening and life-changing. I feel that I'm ready to go back, and not only to a career, but to a family, and be a much better version of me.
Yeah, that's incredible. What would you recommend for maybe another male? I'm military too, I'm a veteran, Navy, you're Marines, and I know Dr. Blessing works with a lot of military guys, police, all the law enforcement. And so what would be like maybe your advice or your recommendation for somebody who kind of maybe felt like you did and they just don't really know what to do or how to reach out? What would your advice be for something like that?
I'm all over that, Josh, because I'm going to tell you that I was scared to invest time into myself. I had been used to self-sacrifice and giving my best for everyone else.
Yeah.
But now looking back, I understand absolutely you cannot be your best for others unless you give that time to yourself to have a level of introspection, a level of awareness that actually will help guide you in your healing, and realizing where you're at and admitting, I believe with, Alcoholics Anonymous, with the first step, you have to get over denial, and you have to admit where you're at. But you have to have a level of awareness to even get there. I was just so used at just beating the heck out of myself, getting results, that I really didn't have that awareness. I thought I was open-minded. I thought I was in tune with what I needed to be my best, but I really had so much at the center. And I would say just, oh my gosh, I hate to give the advice of just suck it up and do what needs to be done, but I believe we know. I think I knew the whole time.
Yeah, you had that awareness there, you're saying, because I was going to ask him, like, do you have to find that, or does somebody have to find that? But you're saying, no, it was there, it was a still voice, it kept, letting you know, hey, something's not right, something's not right. Was that kind of how it goes?
Yes. So March 2017, I ended up with DVT, with blood clots. Okay. I didn't know why I was getting them. I had gotten much weaker. I'd lost 30 pounds of muscle. I just mentally was not able to function even in my job, and I didn't know what was wrong. It took 7 months to find out it was actually heavy metal poisoning that I had received by teaching an active shooter response program for my state. And so my law enforcement agency I worked for actually had loaned me out to another agency, and I was primarily in a teaching training role.
Gotcha.
and really administering, ensuring that a course was administered to train our law enforcement officers to respond to an active threat, which unfortunately is necessary today.
Right.
So with that, when I had gotten sick from that, I had no idea what it was. So I really went on a personal journey of trying to control my mind. I no longer, I had all kinds of symptoms related to heavy metal poisoning, which, a lot of people won't realize or understand. But I mean, it literally, makes you crazy.
Yeah.
It also causes physiological damage as well, like with me, with the blood clots. With that, all kinds of other health symptoms. And I finally had to listen to my body. I had sucked it up for so long, and just by ignoring my body and just being focused on the mission and just grind it out every day, every way you can find. And so with that, I had gotten used to operating that way. And this showed me I really have to find similar yet different operating principles. And so I went on a journey after I got the blood clots, March 2017, I ended up actually going back to work in about, I think, 4 weeks or so.
Wow.
But I was a mess. I mean, I had no idea it was metal poisoning affecting my mind, my body.
Yeah.
And so with that came, I don't quit anything. I never give up.
Never,
I don't quit.
Right.
So I just started focusing on. I learned transcendental meditation. That was one step. I must learn to control my mind. For whatever reason, it's gone like it has turned into the most basic daily events being challenges. And then you start just questioning your confidence, and life gets real at that point.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, when you can fake it till you make it, that's
absolutely.
great. It
yeah,
works.
It works for a little bit, and then when it comes crashing
However,
in, yeah, absolutely.
I truly, and it really solicited true healing in me, mentally, emotionally, physically,
right,
and spiritually as well.
So basically, you really felt that intuition. A lot of things happened along the way. There was a lot of toxicity that was taking place in your body, and I know Dr. Blessing helps with that a lot. Was there any toxicity? What was on the website that got you? I'm really curious. Was because you went to the website, but why did you know that maybe this place can help you, not the place in, Scottsdale, the place in Sedona? Sedona is so beautiful. All these places are so wonderful. What made you say, okay, Tucson Biofeedback, I'm going to give that a try?
Okay, so Sedona, it called out to me.
Right.
However, there's a however there. When I did get in contact with somebody there, and 1 month and $46,000 later, family of 4, on a law enforcement officer's salary.
Yeah.
And there's just, I knew I needed to do something for myself so that myself could be my best for my family. Realizing that there was something drawing me to it, not understanding what,
right, and
just letting go. And when she called, I mean, it was apparent. The compassion that I felt, the empathy, the straightforwardness. She just seemed real on the phone with me, and so real that a guy who's been very guarded and really programmed himself to be very guarded in his life opened up to her on the phone. Wow. And when she told me she would fit me in, literally it was like a weight was lifted off of me. One thing for those guys is, I mean, you can think what you want at the current state you're in, the current place you're in, but we're all going to get there. We're all going to be broken at some point or another. And I believe that's when we find our true strength. And I just am so thankful, not past tense, so thankful for Dr. Blessing, her office, and her amazing staff. Every time I was here,
that's wonderful.
I felt love, I felt kindness, compassion,
awesome.
But also there was no skating around stuff trying to make me feel good.
Fluff.
Everything was meaningful,
right.
That I took from this, and really a lot of times, had to really understand what was going on, and found that understanding and found that peace now.
Do you feel like you found what you were looking for? Or do you feel like you have the tools now? Like, did you get what you were looking for?
Do I feel like I got what I was looking for? Everything about this trip exceeded everything I ever imagined. There's no way. I've described this to Dr. Blessing and to one of her staff members at one point. The experience is ineffable. It's wordless. I'm wordless when it comes to it. There's no way I can put in words how much this trip has meant, and the healing that it has not only caused, but I feel like I'm just beginning.
Wow.
I'm starting to realize and do the work, and I'm just operating with more awareness, which is what I tried to do after the whole March 2017, not knowing what's going on with me. I absolutely have grown more and found more answers in the last month than I have in any 2 decades of my life. I really feel like, again, I'm that amazing kid that just looked around and saw beauty in the world.
Right.
And I'm still the guy that can flip the switch and do what's needed to be done. You know, as extreme.
But you seem really
extreme.
joyful. You seem like very light, like very easy to interact with. Your energy doesn't seem like you had any issues. It doesn't seem like nothing was wrong with you. Like, I don't know your full story. I don't go into details with Dr. Blessing, but from looking at you, it doesn't seem like you seem like a really healthy, fit guy.
Well, don't get me wrong. You know, I've always been good at faking it.
Right.
You know,
right.
Except with the groups that I've been most comfortable with, which has been the groups that I've cared about the most.
Right.
One being family.
Yeah.
And so now I'm literally going away from here feeling like I can finally be healthy and be the parent that I need to be.
Yeah.
And not just force it and grind it out. You know,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
actually feel like I'm being guided now by an inner voice that is that very child that I've repressed and beat the heck out of this whole life to build myself into what I perceived I needed to be for this world.
And Charles, I just think this is, like, honestly such a powerful interview, especially what's going on.
Well, it's honest for sure.
It's honest. It's open. It's raw. It's vulnerable. It's everything. You know, people can't see me, but I'm African American, and I'm speaking to a law enforcement guy who is just here for his healing. And it's just like, this is what real life is right here. You know, I know they're playing a lot of stuff out there in the world, but, you know, talking to you, this is just such a pleasure. It's such an honor. But I guess the last thing I want to ask you, if there was anything.
Can I add one point there?
Yeah.
So Josh, this has been me for quite some time too, is as a law enforcement officer, I don't see color of skin.
I can tell.
You know, it's skin pigmentation. I believe we're one race. We're a human race.
Right.
And I believe we give way too much to skin pigmentation.
Absolutely.
We are human beings, and we're under God, and we need to get that message out in life.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
We're getting the opposite message.
Right. Yep.
And you know, Dr. Blessing and her work, her teachings, her counseling has absolutely given me a connectedness of man like I've never felt before. Wow. And respectfully, ladies, you know,
absolutely. Humans. You're just talking about human beings. Yes. Mankind. Human. Yeah. Absolutely.
So with that, it's you know, I think we all can get it.
Absolutely.
We just have to be at that place and be ready.